All right, good morning. Good morning. Good morning. All right, I'm on a different computer today, so I gotta fix. Can't see my comments. Bear with me, y'all. Good morning, good afternoon. On a different computer, so y'all bear with me. I'm trying to fix my comments so we can see the comments. All right, let's see. That might work. Try that again. Oh, it kind of works. I still gotta fix it. All right. All right, we might have to deal with that right now because I don't know how to fix it live. All right. Hello. Oh, that sucks. All right, I gotta fix this. Let's see. I thought I fixed everything last night as I was trying to use this computer. But clearly I missed something. All right, let me try that again. Oh, that's better. We'll work with that for right now. Hello from rainy Michigan. Good afternoon. Oh, thank you very much. Thank you, thank you. Good morning from Maryland. Hello. Good afternoon from Baltimore. All right. Congratulations, Ocean. All right. So I am actually on the West Coast. So it is morning for me. It is usually afternoon. Um, Hi, it's Latasha. All right. So I am going to get started um, and do my intro, and then we'll get to talking. Thank you all very much for being here. Um, and I'll kick off my little intro. So let me get to my right screen here. That ain't it. That ain't it. There we go. Y'all know I'm not the professional. As long as I've been doing this, I'm still struggling. But anyway, good morning, good afternoon. My name is Jewel Pearson. This is Miss Bohemian Soul TV. This is um, the segment of Creating Home, a tiny house series. This is the What's Your Question segment where I answer frequently asked tiny house questions. As I introduce myself, I like to say that I built what I think is a kind of fancy tiny house in 2015. And since that time, I have shared my journey to inspire others who are interested in the movement. I do also offer coaching and consultations to help others in their tiny house journey. And once this goes live and I have a chance to update it, you will be able to find links to schedule with me in the video description below the video. And as I'm doing all of that, I serve up a lot of representation. It is important to me for us to see ourselves in this movement. And I hope that we are able to do that more now. And the conversations that we have help us see ourselves and understand our journey in this movement. It is my intent to build figurative and literal community. that is inclusive and accessible. And I hope that if you find this information in the video helpful, you will like it, you'll share it, you'll subscribe to the channel, and then turn on the notifications so that you'll know when live content is available. All right, let me get back to my main screen. Thank you, thank you. Thank you, Judith. Excuse me. I appreciate that. Hi from Hillsboro. Oh, thank you, Ocean. I appreciate that. Thank you, thank you. Welcome. Glad to have you here. All right. So I am, excuse me, I am in Seattle, Washington. Today I've been here since late Friday, hanging out here for a few days. It is gorgeous here. And then I am headed to Oregon, near Portland. I'm going into Portland and then I'm going to another little city in Oregon to visit my nephew. So I'm excited about that. So I'll be over here for most of the week. I have been enjoying the city. It's beautiful. I know that they get a lot of rain and gray days here, so I know that I could probably only live here during the summer, but I could probably do that. It's a gorgeous place. I actually found a place that I think is beautiful for a cool million that I could buy and have me a place here. So if y'all want to go in on the cool million, y'all let me know and we can get us a place here. But I did yesterday go to um, welcome. Happy to have you here. Um, I did yesterday attend an event. There was an event. You know, I'm always going to look for us in when I'm traveling and seeing what we're doing. So I attended an event yesterday that was hosted by Africa Town Land Trust, and they had a cultural event, Soul on the Water. So they had performing artists and vendors, and they had a paint by the sea event. And it was a very, very nice event. And I got to talk to some of the people from that community land trust, and they were telling me about a community here called Central District that has been a Black community for many years. I'll read this so I don't try to paraphrase. It says Africa Town Community Land Trust is acquiring and developing properties to ensure that the Black community that has called the Central District home for nearly 140 years is able to be a part of the future of the neighborhood in Seattle. This includes access to affordable space to live, grow businesses, enjoy our rich culture, and build on the legacies of those who have come before us. We envision a vibrant community that honors the heritage of the Black experience in Seattle. And then they have property, they have contact information. Interesting, the same story. This was a neighborhood where Black and brown folks have lived for quite some time that is being gentrified, and they are working to try to save the community for the Black and brown people who've lived there for quite some time. And so they are acquiring property and redeveloping property, and it was a good look. So I enjoyed the festival yesterday. Yes, Pike's Market, that is exactly. So this was, I had Googled Pike's Market and I went to Pike's Market, and this event was happening on Pier 62, I think it was. This is one of their, oh, let me see, get it in the camera. Central Africa Town. Very cute, Africa. And then that's the Seattle, I forgot what you call that thing, Needle, in the middle of that. So I was at Pike's Market. I got to see a lot of vendors, and I had a really good time. So I'm connecting with some friends today, and I will be exploring a little bit more. I have heard of Idlewild, Idlewild, Michigan. Yes, I have absolutely heard of that. I feel like our story is the same in all of these cities where we are having to work to reclaim land that has been ours that oftentimes then becomes of interest, because if you know about redlining and how they divided cities and where they centered the black folks in the urban areas, and they went out to the suburbs, and the and they neglected the urban areas, and then they ran highways through the urban areas and disrupted the black and brown communities. And those communities were suffering from poverty because they couldn't get access to finances and loans and all of those things that were happening out in the suburbs, and the taxes that they were using to build up the suburbs. And so the black and brown communities have struggled in the urban areas, and but we've made it home. And now that they've in most of these cities decided now that the urban spaces, the spaces near downtown, are the spaces that they desire again. Now they're displacing the black and brown folks who have been in that area for many years. And so it's the same story in every city, especially the major cities. And again, it goes back to redlining and discriminatory mortgage lending, all of those things. And while it has been, and I talk about that often, and I'll share some links. I know I got to make a note. Um, all of those things that you can look on a map and see how cities were divided, and the things that have led to poverty and challenge in our community. It's just ongoing. Um, so today is what's your question? Thank you again for y'all being here as you do. I appreciate you all so much. I wanted to last week there was a question in the chat. I think it was last week. I'm pretty sure it was last week, um, where a woman had asked, she was interested in tiny houses, and she said that her question was, how do you get, it seemed like her children were grown, and her question was around, how do you get your grown children, if you're interested in tiny houses, and how do you get your grown children and your family on board with that's your dream and that's what you want to do? And my answer to her was, you don't, because your children are grown, you're grown, and that's the point where you get to live your dreams. And I wanted to talk more about that because that is a common question, that is a common theme that I hear from people who are interested in tiny houses, but their people, friends, family, children, aren't necessarily on board. And so I want to explore that. I've talked about that before. I've got a video where I've gone into it in a lot of detail. It's my dreams video, and I'm going to talk about it a little bit. I'll link to that video in the description, but I also wanted to talk about it. And I really, it has kind of weighed on me all week, that question, because I answered it, but then we moved on in some other conversation. But then it kept coming back to me last week as all of the things were happening last week, as things were playing out. So we know last week, um, the Supreme Court ruled on affirmative action negatively. They negatively ruled on affirmative action. And even though we know, or most people know, and if you don't know, you could do the research and see it, the main beneficiaries of affirmative action are white women. And so that's one of the things that was, and I think, and I won't say, maybe it was an unintended consequence, maybe they knew it, that's how it would play out. But it hasn't worked for us as it was supposed to. But then the ruling last week continues to work against us. And then, and my thought around that is, I saw comments and concerns And I keep going back to the fact that these systems aren't really built for us. So to expect the systems that aren't built for us to work for us isn't really um, logical, because we aren't the consideration as laws and things are enacted. So it's not surprising to me when something happens. It's not surprising to me what's happening in the state of Florida with the laws that say, um, or the critical race theory, that things teachers can't teach about Black history. They can't teach about the real history of this country, the racist history of this country, and ongoing and ongoing. Like, none of that is surprising to me, because the United States is founded on enslavement. It's founded on racism and white supremacy. So when these things happen, it's par for the course, because that is um, really what the United States is about. And so one of the things that kept weighing heavily on me last week, and then we had the decision of not the student loan forgiveness was shot down. And so I know, people were looking for that as some relief. And then last week I learned, and I kind of seen some of this, and I hadn't paid as much attention to it as I should have. But I saw the Dream Defenders. They were talking about the student loan debt cancellation, and they pointed out that the student loan debt cancellation would immediately increase the wealth of Black Americans by up to 40%, and that was some data from the Education Data Initiative. Um, and then they shared another statistic that showed that 4 years after graduation, Black students owe an average of 180% more than white students, of borrowed money. Um, and so it's not lost on the people making those decisions and voting, um, that there would be some benefit to our community. So again, I'm not ever really surprised when things go that direction, and I hope others begin to realize that it is par for the course. Where I'm not saying that we don't continue to use our voices. I'm not saying don't vote. I'm not saying any of that, but I'm also saying that we as individuals have to work on our personal plan. And for me, that goes to, um, yeah, the question is what increased wealth? Yes. So again, let me read that. It said student loan debt cancellation would immediately increase the wealth of Black Americans by up to 40%. So if we are, it says 4 years after graduation, Black students owe an average of 188% more than white students borrowed. So student loan debt cancellation would have erased some of that and then increased our wealth. And if I talk about the wealth gap, and that a few years ago, a study said that in order to close year after year, the wealth gap is increasing. And a study said that it would take, I think it was 225 years for the wealth gap to close. And in order for it to close in those 225 years, it would mean that white people could not earn any more wealth. They would have to stop earning, and then it would still take 225 years to close the wealth gap with them no longer earning. And so, we know that's not realistic. It's not happening. And so, um, again, that takes me back to where I've talked about my tiny house journey. And I see my tiny house journey as um, liberation, like moving towards liberation, my personal liberation. And the things that for me feel like freedom and lightness and all of those things, it has a lot to do um, with my decisions to live tiny. I've said it is my um, non-traditional retirement plan. And so again, that as I thought about this all week and thought about the woman's comment last week about, how do I get my grown children and my family on board if I'm interested. And it was, again, she was personally interested in the tiny house, but she was trying to get other people on board with her dream. And I was saying that you don't, that it's your dream and you don't have to get others on board for your dream. And so I wanted to talk about that a bit, because one of the things that, again, we have to work on is our personal liberation. We have to, as these things are happening in the world, um, we have to know that we have to build our communities. And I've spoken about um, like the themes of Kwanzaa, and cooperative communities, and all of those things for us working to build each other, to build our communities, to support Black-owned businesses, all of those things. Like, if a system isn't going to help us, then we have to help ourselves. We have to help ourselves as individuals. We have to help ourselves as a community. And that is absolutely, that is what that is part of the reason that I do this work and this sharing in the tiny house community, and the reason that I want us to see ourselves in this community, because it is where I've said before that I feel like my work here in the community is like the the intersection of art and activism. So I feel like my house is somewhat of art, somewhat art. It is art. I'm going to claim it. And the work that I do within the community, so that we see ourselves, absolutely, so that we see ourselves, is activism. So I've said that I feel like my work, my calling, the things that I want to do in this movement and within the community is the intersection of art and activism. And it is work for liberation, because there's, the very hokey saying that less is liberation. And it sounds really goofy, but it's so true. It is, um, it is the liberation that allows me to travel. Um, it is the liberation that allows me to know that while I still work in corporate America, the ways that I want to work in corporate America have to align more with me, and less with I have to work at this job because I make X amount of dollars and I can't afford to make anything less. And when those things are out of alignment, it is, oh, and out of alignment of, if it's stressing, if it's causing anxiety, that's out of alignment with how I want to thank you, how I want to work. And so then I need to make an adjustment, and it allows me to make those decisions in that manner versus, absolutely, in that manner versus when, as a young woman, a younger woman, or as a young single mom raising a daughter, my decisions were dictated by, I've got to make this amount of money because I have a child to feed, I've got a mortgage to pay. I I've got all of these things that say I have to make X amount of dollars. So they may be over there acting a fool, and I might hate everyone at the job, but until I have something else that is going to make the same amount of money, I've got to tolerate all of this because I've got a child to feed. And that was so much of my journey at that time. And so it has been really important to me to, and I'm not saying I'm completely there, but absolutely very a lot closer in that journey in dictating and building a life that I love, and a life that is important to me, that honors how I want to be and show up in this world. And I want to encourage again, others to start thinking in that manner. Again, the less is more. And I'm going to share let me write it. Y'all know I got to write it down while I'm saying it. Otherwise, I will forget it. I am going to share a link to my dear friend Christine Platt, who is the Afro Minimalist. If you don't follow her on Instagram, you should. She has two IG pages, handles, whatever you call it. Christine Platt, um, the Afro Minimalist, and she has written a book about. Um, I can't think of the name of the book right this minute. It's red. It's in my head. Um, but the our as the Black community, our um, association with stuff and why we collect stuff and what that means, not in a shameful manner, but understanding our community and our generations and trauma and all of these things that lead us to hold on to things, and how letting go of those things is liberation, and working through that process of letting go. And it's a very helpful book, because oftentimes I also hear people who say they don't know how to downsize, they don't know how to get rid of the stuff because there is that emotional connection to so many things. And so her book helps you process that. So I'll share a link to that as well. Um, but and someone just said in the chat, self-liberation is a first step. Absolutely. Um, and it is very freeing. Absolutely. Her book is fabulous. Um, and I need to reach out to her because I want to have her as a guest here so we can talk about it. Um, and I want all of us to focus on that individually. Everybody, you don't have to live in a tiny house, um, but downsizing. Like if you, I always talk about, consider the home that you live in and the space that you have. Are you using all of that space? Are you dusting some of the rooms? Are you buying more things to fill rooms that you actually don't use? Are you working overtime, extra hard to pay for a space that you don't really get to enjoy? Like all of the things that, because success in America looks like big and lots of cars and big houses and those things, but we know that we are killing ourselves. Stress is it's the number one killer, and stress looks like strokes in younger people, heart attacks in younger people, because society says we should look this way, and we've got social media where people look this way, and people are self-comparing, myself included, to other people, and then you get caught up in that and you feel like you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing, you're behind, and you're caught up in that race, and you're not serving yourself well. And so, um, yes, she is from DC. She's a fabulous person. And so it is the understanding and the coming to self to understand that, as someone commented, self liberation is a first step, and that is the only way in. Um, there's a quote, and I'm getting ready to mess it up, that says something about the only way to be free in an unjust society. Let's see, the only way. I'm getting ready. Here it is. The only way to deal with an unfree world is to become so absolutely free that your very existence is an act of rebellion. And this is a quote by Albert Camus. I don't know who he is, but that quote always sticks with me. The only way to deal with an unfree world is to become so absolutely free that your very existence is an act of rebellion. Um, and that's true. It is starting with self and the self liberation and moving about in this world so that you are in control of your personal freedom. My friends um, in the Exodus Summit, Stephanie and Rashida, have a whole movement of Black women who are leaving the country, Black women who are focused on ease and abundance. And it's not, um, and it's again getting free and starting with yourself so that, um, like we only get one chance to do this thing called life, and so it is. Um, Making sure that we are getting ourselves free, that we're getting our friends and family free as they want to, that we're working on that freedom for our community, that we're supporting each other in our community, because that is what it's going to take in an unjust and in an unfree world. Um, Ocean is saying, I gave away so much stuff, I just did not organize the, I just I'm not sure about the last sentence, but we've talked about um, like the ways to get rid of clutter. And there's so many theories to it, like turning your hangers around in your closet so that you only turning organizing your closet, turning all of the hangers in one direction, and you only get to turn the hanger around when you wear that item. And you do that for say 6 months, 6 months for like a season, or or a season, and then everything that didn't get turned around and get worn, because technically you end up wearing the same things over and over again, and I think most of us know that. You get rid of that stuff. Or there's another, these two guys, when I first joined the tiny house movement, and people were talking about downsizing and how do you do it. They packed up everything in the house, boxed up everything, and did a good job of it, labeled all of the boxes. And they only took things out of the boxes as they needed it. Obviously, it's not your important paperwork and stuff like that, but only took stuff out of the boxes as they needed it, and everything else that stayed in that box got donated. Um, because you again recognize at some point you wear the same things over and over again, and you don't need most of the stuff that you have. Having a time capsule wardrobe, Christine talks about that too, where you have things that coordinate with each other. So you only have a few pieces, but you can coordinate with those pieces so that you have different outfits. And the funny thing about that for me is that my mother is by no means a minimalist, but when I was in elementary school, she sold, there was a line of clothing called Beeline, and my mother was a fabulous salesperson. She's a salesperson. I'm not. But that was the premise of Beeline, having core pieces, and then you a capsule, a wardrobe capsule, and these things coordinated so that you could throw this wrap over the black dress, and then it became another outfit, and you did this and you did this, and that was, just a few pieces, but you had a whole wardrobe. And then there's some other people, and I think it's like a 22, only having 22 things. There are a lot of theories out there to help you downsize, um, and it's a painful process. I've shared that I had the benefit of doing that over the course of 10 years. So I sold my 4 bedroom, 3 bath house, and that was in 2006. And then I started building my tiny house in 2015. And so over the course of that time, I gradually got rid of things. And so I had the benefit of doing it over a long term. But when you end up having boxes in storage, and someone just commented on that, boxes in storage, and they've been in storage, and you've not needed anything in that box in the 5 years it's been in storage. If you think about the money that you've spent with that storage facility, housing your boxes of stuff that you don't need. And again, I'm not saying don't keep the important stuff. I'm not advocating for you to throw out paperwork and tax paperwork, but I'm advocating for us to find the things that we love and we have to have. And I've also spoken about how there are so many things that you love as you're downsizing that you feel like you have to have, that you can actually gift on to other people, other family members, clothing that you can not just dump off at a Goodwill, but donate to a facility that is helping women get back in the workforce, things like that, so that you know that it is the things that you're donating, it's going to live a life, another life, and so it's doing some good and helping somebody else as it has helped you. Pictures, and that's, sentimental items like pictures. Those things are always the challenge, but we do have the ability to have digital um, photo albums, which oftentimes is helpful because that the integrity of actual photos is lost over time, and so digitally is a way to hold on to them. And so it is being creative and realistic in understanding the hold that physical things can have on you. Um, and again, I always say I'm not a minimalist. My house is not minimal at all. I haven't relegated myself to, 4 items or 4 pairs of pants, but I'm constantly doing a sweep of my things, my closet. Um, because and that has just happened as part of my lifestyle is in living tiny. um I used to be one of the people that would travel with um a big suitcase. I had a big suitcase to travel with, and now I can travel with a backpack or a carry-on, because it's lighter. Because I recognize I don't need 5 pairs of shoes for a week and all of the things, because I'm not going to wear all of that stuff, and it becomes, even stressful keeping up with that stuff and navigating through the airport or travel, all of these things, and it just becomes again a matter of freedom and lightness, and that is what I am encouraging us to do. And I want to go back to talk about dreams in just a minute. Yes, Ocean, so much money on a storage unit that you could have used that money to travel. Absolutely. um, when we think about it, shopping, and so shopping is often therapy. um, and I love to shop. But one of the things that I have started doing is, it is more the actual shopping, the being out, the looking at the stuff that I realize that I really like. So I still go out and do that. I will go and more window shop. But I also don't deprive myself of things. So when I'm buying something, one, I make sure that I am buying quality things. So like I realized I have some heels. I think they're Jessica Simpson heels. I absolutely love them, and I have 3 pair of them because they're so comfortable. I have 3 pair in different colors because once I realize something is fabulous and it's comfortable, especially in shoes, I'm going to buy multiples of them. But I realize I've had these shoes now maybe 15 years, and they're heels, style, they're not trendy, is I guess what you would call, so they're not going to go out of style. I can wear them, and I've had them for 15 years. So they weren't cheap. They weren't astronomical either, but I'm willing to spend a little bit more for quality, for things that I know I'm going to have for 10 or 15 years. The other thing that I'll do, and there's staples in my wardrobe, and the other thing that I'll do as I'm shopping is that, when something I know has run its course, its life cycle, I will take something out of my closet, and whatever, if I need to donate it, whatever I need to do with that, as I bring something in. And so I'm trying to be conscious of what I have in my closet. And again, I'm not a minimalist, but that is the way I have learned to shop and to do things, so that I can still have the experience of shopping. I can still enjoy shopping like I enjoy shopping, but I'm also being mindful of the things that I have in my consumption. Um, I am going to, there was a question, um, can you talk about how it's said tiny houses depreciate? Um, Maybe I had at one point I said I was going to research that so I could talk about it more educated, because I'm not well versed in depreciation and home depreciation. But what I know, so when people talk about the appreciation and depreciation in the conventional home um, realm, they're talking about equity in the house, and how the area, the neighborhood and the community appreciate, and loss associated with the way the community fluctuates up and down, the way the home, the neighborhood, the home appreciates up and down. You're not building equity in a tiny house, and so that's the main thing. First off, you're not building equity in a tiny house, but there are ways to build non-traditional equity, and I've spoken about that. So I own my home outright. The money that I save and not having a mortgage and not having the expenses associated with traditional conventional housing, I can invest that. And so there is the opportunity for non-traditional wealth building or equity building, because you're going about it in a different way and not necessarily associated with built with the home. Um, as far as the home depreciating, so the value of my tiny house, I know I really, again, can't speak to depreciation, appreciation from a real estate professional viewpoint, but I can tell you I can absolutely sell my house for two and a half times more than what I paid for it when I built it in 2015. So that is appreciation. Um, the care, and I spoke about this on Instagram the other week. I just painted the original tiny house, the exterior of the original tiny house. And when you see communities and houses go into disrepair, oftentimes it's because people don't have the money for the upkeep of the home. And before you know it, because maintaining large homes is expensive, and there's always something that you need to be paying attention to. Um, the painting, the siding, termites, all of the things that are costly that require you to pay attention. And before you know it, something happens, and to correct it, it is astronomical. And you may not have the funds to do that then. And the longer it continues, the more harm it is going to cause to your home. I know that I have a much better opportunity now to take care of my home. One, it's small. I know my home. I designed my home. I sourced all of the materials for my home, even the new additions. Shout out to New Edition. And I know everything about my home. So I know how to pay attention to what needs to be done. I know how to, even if I can't physically do the repair, I know how to speak to what needs to be done for a contractor. Paying for repairs or something new, or when I want to do something different, is a small fraction of the cost of what my 4 bedroom, 3 bath house cost me. And I'm able to stay on top of that work because it is a small fraction of the cost of what my large conventional home cost me. And my house was, again, 4 bedroom, 3 baths. That's not massive. And so, of course, that cost increases as the house size increases. And so, in my mind, again, I'm not a real estate professional to speak professionally to the depreciation. Um, that conversation is not something that I say is a negative. The depreciation conversation, I don't agree that it's still a negative for tiny house living. Um, thank you, Ocean. I should have read it and I could have figured that out. Um, so that I hope that helps in that depreciation concept um, or conversation. Hey, Charlotte, thanks for being here. I'm in Seattle, and so they've got a breeze here that's happening. That's really nice. Yes, yes. Dress for Success. We had. Um, are you the person that's? No, you're not. I think we had a Dress for Success, and I used to donate there, but they've not been in operation for a while. Yes, donating. I know your conversation about Johnson C. Smith is about, I believe, donating. Um, so yeah, so I want to come back to that. So because I really was talking about, I've covered the liberation part, but I want to talk about dreams and speak to the woman that really sparked this conversation. Teresa says it's hard for her to downsize. Teresa, we're gonna hold you in our hearts, and you're gonna get this book that I'm gonna share the link to in the description, and you're going to work through downsizing. We're gonna hold you close, Teresa. Stay in the community, and we're gonna support you through this. Um, yes, depreciation has a lot to do with upkeep, also. Absolutely, absolutely. Okay, Ocean. Robert, Robert, I appreciate you this morning. Robert, was it you who asked me to marry you a few weeks ago? All right. The value comes from quality building and good quality materials and management of the home. Absolutely. And when you are focused on building, that is the other thing about a tiny home. A small space. You can ball out on a small space, some material that you would never consider using in a large traditional home because it would be so costly. You can absolutely use it in a tiny house because it's a smaller space. The cost of using that material is going to be a lot less. You can use more quality material. That's one thing about tiny house people who've been involved in building their own homes. They are most often focused on using sustainable materials and quality materials. Um, because one, you can, because it makes more sense because it's a small space and you want to invest in the best for that small space for long-term um, upkeep, for sustainability, all of those things that are really important in your spaces. You're not using things like the pink insulation. You're using, some people use the spray foam because it adds to the rigidity of the structure. I can't, rock something, rock. Um, it'll come to me later. Insulation that it's available at Lowe's, but it's green insulation. It's made from recycled type materials. Rock it was almost there. Um, because you're focused on how materials off gas and how they're going to impact you physically. And so absolutely, a small space is the value is you're able to hold that value because you can maintain it, and you can use quality building and good quality materials. So yes. Ocean says she needs that book. Absolutely, it's going to be in the link. Y'all have to in the description. Y'all have to give me some time to to get to it. So Robert is Thank you, Robert, for showing back up. Um, it doesn't have to be so hard, Belinda. There's some resources that are available to you. Um, no, that's not it, Teresa, but thank you. Um, but I'll maybe I'll add the installation once I figure it out in the description. All right, so I want to talk a minute. I want to go back to that's it is I think that's something like that. That's the name of it. Something very similar to that, if that's not it. And it's a better insulation than the pink stuff. And as you're building a tiny house and you're very closely surrounded by the walls, the thought process is um, to use quality material since you're more impacted by the structure. Off gassing and allergy. So I'm not the expert in this conversation, but there are absolutely tiny house builders, tiny house dwellers who have focused on the materials and building as much as possible to, I don't want to say non-allergenic, but I can't think of what that's called, but using materials that are good materials. The person that I can think of, she no longer lives in her tiny house, and she's a deaf interpreter, and I'll add a link. I did a consultation with her probably 2016, 2017. And then she built a tiny house, and that was the focus on her tiny house because she had health issues and she wanted to use quality material. So I'll add a link. She no longer lives in the house, but the page, she still has the page. And you can follow and hear some of her journey and how she got to where she got and the decisions that she made. But I want to go back to for a minute. Let me see if I can change the screen. Um, to this because I want to speak a little bit about the back to the woman who joined again. I think it was last weekend, and who was um, was asking about how do you get you're grown, and it's not like it wasn't her husband, it wasn't small children. It was I'm I'm I've raised my children. My children are grown. How do I get, and I'm interested in a tiny house. How do I get them on board with my dream of a tiny house? And again, my answer to her was that you don't. It's your dream, and you get to dream the dreams that work for you. And other people don't have to be on board with them. They don't have to have the buy-in unless they're, contributing the money. Their opinion is just that, it's their opinion. And I feel like once we start moving in ways that we move, and not obviously not doing anything harmful, but if we're moving in ways that serve us, and somebody else was just talking about with working with the energies we are and being guided to release what no longer serves us. That's even the same thing in dreams. Like if we're in following our dreams, if we are so focused on what other people are going to think about our dreams, like we're not really following our dreams in the right manner because it's your dream. It's something that was a desire that was given to you, and other people don't have to understand it. And you don't need their buy-in for you to follow your dream. And again, I'm going to share the link to the video where I really talk about dreams, but this is a slide and a presentation that I've given a couple of times about dreams and the components of dreams. Like it's not just really having this idea and it comes true. It is the work. There's work behind actually manifesting dreams. And I kind of broke dreams down by each letter and the work that goes into manifestation of dreams. And um, for example, I've often spoke about the due diligence that's needed, and this can apply to any dream. But if I'm talking to this as far as tiny houses, I talk a lot here about doing your due diligence if you're interested in tiny houses, which looks like research and consultations and If you're hiring a builder, doing the due diligence of knowing what their previous build history looks like, speaking to customers, new customers, longer termed customers. What was their experience working with that builder? How is their home holding up? Um, determination. Following dreams isn't easy, so it takes determination to. And I share about my dream of living in a tiny house. It didn't happen immediately. It happened over the course of time, and the dream kind of changed in some ways, which is knowing that it's not going to be a linear process. So you'll have to roll with knowing that it's changing, but you're still focused on what that dream is, and you're determined to, to achieve it. If I look at the R, having realistic dreams, like I just said, there's a house that I saw around the corner from here in Seattle that I want to buy that's a little over a million. That's a pipe dream. Ain't happening. I ain't spending I don't have a million. I ain't trying to spend a million on anything. But obviously that's not a realistic dream. That's not a realistic dream for me, because that's not where I want to be, unless I hit the lottery. So having realistic dreams. And then resilience in following that dream and sticking through it and knowing it's not going to be easy. And the reciprocation for me speaks to you having your dream and finding some people who support you, but also supporting people as they're trying to achieve their dreams. So it's not always being so self-centered that it's all about you and your dreams, but you also want to be a support for other people as they are trying to achieve their dreams. And then envisioning it in the E, envisioning it like I had the dream of living a lighter lifestyle, which is now my tiny house, when my daughter was going to kindergarten. So she was 5, I think that was 1993-ish, 2-ish, 93-ish, going into kindergarten. That was the dream. And I've always envisioned it. At that time, it was an RV. But I just kind of knew what that feeling would look like. And that is the feeling of where I am right now. So envisioning it and holding that vision, like manifestation and seeing things is putting that energy out is really actually how you get to dreaming. Like when I was building my tiny house, and I shared some pictures of that last week of the actual imagery, and I can't think of the tool now of what my tiny house was going to look like before I even built it. I envisioned myself sitting in that tiny house before it was actually built, because that is how you bring dreams to life. My first house, I've shared at some point, when I was in the deciding that I wanted to buy that house, and I would ride past that house all the time and look in the windows and envision myself in that space, before I actually had even gone through the process. Um, Applause, celebrate yourself. You got That's something in dreams that's important. Like if others celebrating you, you have got to celebrate yourself, and that's something that is real. Maybe I need to do this dreams thing over in its full glory, to talk through. But the and the M, okay, so the M, if I pick one, mistakes. You're going to make mistakes along the way. You're going to make mistakes in the process. You're going to make mistakes. And if you know that up front, then the mistakes don't floor you. They don't set you off course. You know it. I know I'm going to make mistakes. Here's a mistake. Let me get back on course, acknowledge this mistake, know how to do better, not let it happen again, and keep going on course. Once you know up front that you're going to make mistakes, once they happen, they're easier to deal with. And then the S part, it took all of this to get to the S part, is the part that for me really has stuck out from the conversation with that woman who said, how do I get my grown adult children on board? How do I get my family on board with this? And that is the support system. So in the R, I spoke about reciprocating. So you have your people that you're supporting, they're supporting you. But you also are going to have to find a support system. And I spoke about this for somebody who said they don't know how to downsize. You have to find the people in your support system, may not be your friends and family, as you're following this stream, but you have to find the people who are like-minded. You have to find your community. You have to find the people who are, if it's the dream of a tiny house or if it's a dream of downsizing, the people who are also on that same journey, so you all can support and encourage each other. And so it is not a matter of a foreign concept, as I'm talking about, I want to live in a tiny house, and people, and this, this was happening to me in the beginning when, and I was building a tiny house. This was 2013, 2014. So obviously people thought I was crazy. I was experiencing a hardship. People were asking me, do you need a place to live? No, I got a whole dream. And there weren't as many people in a community that I could connect with to support this dream, but I absolutely did find some people, and I followed their journey, so that in my conversation, as I was talking about my tiny house or as talking about my build and the things that I was encountering, these people could relate to, for the most part, what I was talking about. They could not relate to my experience as a Black woman, but that's why we're here. Um, but these people could relate to my challenges, my joys, my ups, the lows, the highs, all of those things. And it didn't sound like craziness to them. Now, I had some core friends who were supportive, but having a conversation about a tiny house didn't really resonate with them. Some of my friends absolutely supported because they're my friends, and that's what friends are going to do, but for the most part. But they couldn't relate to the details of a tiny house and that journey. So finding you a support system that can support at the level of having some connection to also being interested in your dream is important. And that is what I would say, to the woman when she said, "How do I get them to buy in?" And I said, "You don't. They don't have to. It's your dream. You follow your dream, and you find a support system that will support that dream in a way that um, helps it become achievable for you." And that's how you can, the other S here, see success in achieving that dream. um, and so that is what I wanted to talk about today, the um, following your dreams and liberation. Like, I feel like they go hand in hand, and we have to be very focused on, Belinda, we got to get you in a peaceful place. We have to be very focused on ourselves. The older I get, the more I recognize how time is short. And that quote, when they say youth is wasted on the young, is absolutely true, because um, as you start seeing time moving faster and time winding down, and you realize the things that are important and you need to focus on, um, that is personal liberation and freedom and lightness are the things that I want to stay focused on. And those are the things that bring me, the peace, and making sure that I'm placing myself with people, places, and people, surrounding myself with people, places, and things that serve that journey and support that journey, and reassessing that, in because that is how you shore up your dreams, in surrounding yourself with people, places, and things that support the journey and the dream and the things that you're interested in. And I really hope that you all are doing that for yourselves too. And if you aren't, you begin doing that for yourselves too. All right, that is my sermon for today. And I didn't think I was going to be on here long. And look, we've been here for an hour. All right, so I've got to add notes about redlining, link to my dream video. Maybe we'll revisit that dream presentation in its entirety. I hope the woman who joined last Sunday watches this and gets some encouragement from this. I am going to add a link to Christine's book. I think it's the Afro Minimalist Guide to something, Living with Less, something like that. I probably screwed that up, but I'll add a link to her book. I'm going to talk to her about being a guest here. Um, Thank you. I'm glad you, and thank you. Thank you, thank you. I always am concerned. I want to make sure that you all are getting um, something from this instead of me just talking. Um, Insulation. I said I would add that. I'm going to add a link to the woman who built a sustainable tiny house. And there, she's not the only one. People do that all the time, but I can add a link to that. So people who are interested in that. Um, thank y'all for being here. Happy Sunday, everybody. I am going to get out and explore Seattle some more. I'm going to actually today meet some old coworkers who live in this area. Thank you all for being here. And hang out with a friend of mine who, don't forget an email from me. Robert, my email address, my contact information is always there. Um, Absolutely. I'm glad you all find value in the information. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I keep saying that I'm struggling with this particular session because I don't want it to I want it to be of value. So I'm hoping that you all continue to find value in it. And I thank you very much. Thank you. Everybody have a good Sunday. I am going to do my close out. Oh, I'm glad you did too. Thank you for being here. And y'all give me some time because you know I'm sightseeing. So, but I promise I will add the links to the video, all of that by the end of this evening. And thank you all very, very much for always being here. Um, let me let's get the right screen. There we go. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. I hope to enjoy my time here. I have been enjoying it. It's gorgeous. All right. Thank you, Latasha. This has been the What's Your Question segment of the Creating Home, a Tiny House series. Um, we, as soon as I work on a guest for next week, we should be back next week. Absolutely. In a conversation with someone in and around the tiny house movement as part of the Conversations on Intimate Spaces series. Um, I hope that you all found this or will find this video or have found this conversation of value. I always ask that if you find it helpful, that you like it, you share it, and then tell your friends about it, and subscribe to the channel. Encourage your friends to subscribe to the channel, and then turn on the notifications so that you'll know when content is available. So I thank you all again very much for being here. I hope everyone has a fabulous and a safe Sunday and goes to work on some dreams and your personal liberation. That's what we're doing. So thank you all. Happy Sunday. Take care.